Welcome to the Highways and Byways podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carlisle. Well, last week's episode where I talked about going to see wrestling for the first time got 25 views on YouTube and 2 downloads. One download was from a town in England called Carlisle, and the other one was from Minnesota. I also got a like on my video on YouTube. It was the first time anyone had ever liked any of my videos. So thank you to whoever liked it. After KCRM in Cameron closed, I went around to stations in Temple and Waco trying to get on there, but I couldn't. So my mom gave me the chance to go and see if I can find anything in Houston, but I didn't go. And I wonder if I had gone down there and got on the air, would I still be a DJ or would I be a talk show host? Now, some opportunities did come up here in the Central Texas area throughout the 1990s, but I didn't go after those either. But I did think about it. One was an announcer spot at K10. I don't know what it would have been because they were news and talk by then. I guess I was in the station IDs or filled in for the local shows. Another one was where I heard a commercial on an oldies station, Cool 105, KYUL, looking for DJs. That's where US 105 is now. But I stayed at HEB. By the way, when Walmart announced they were bringing back Walmart Radio and looking for DJs, I thought about looking into that, mainly because I thought about doing that, but I didn't, mainly because I didn't want to go through the trouble of moving to Arkansas. In Houston, if I were there and married with kids and I had daughters, and one of their favorite musicians was in town, and maybe I'd have them on my show and bring my daughters to work with me to meet them, maybe get some pictures and autographs. That's if I were married and had kids. I'm not, and I don't. I did go to a meet and greet by myself to see WWE superstar The Man, Becky Lynch, at a Crooked Wireless in Houston. The line was so long it stretched all the way around the back to down the alley to the next street. But I did see her through the window, though. She had to leave by the time we got close where we could go in to meet her. She had to go on to the arena where they were having the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which I went to. They now call them premium live events. If you subscribe to Peacock, you can watch them with your subscription. And if I were on the air in Houston as a DJ, I might have had her or some of the other superstars from WWE on there. I do remember Bobby Heenan as a guest on a sports show on KPRZ radio in 1989 when they had the second Royal Rumble there. Growing up in Rosebud, I lived down the street from the town's giant Christmas tree. It's 170 foot tall and was put up by the Bell Falls and Mile Electric Co-op in the 1960s. I was in a Christmas play my junior year in high school at Rosebud a lot. It was a parody of a Christmas carol called The Christmas Chorale. I played Tiny Tim. The Rosebud a Lot Cougar Band competed at the ATSSB Region Band Contest at Groesbeck High School on Saturday, and 2 students earned spots in the ensemble. They'll be playing in the clinic and concert on January 13th. They had the Toys for Tots at Walmart on 31st Street in Temple last Friday. The Marines, Channel 10, and Santa Claus were there, and Santa had a real beard. They had a toy run from Temple to Lampasas on Sunday. They honored 23 veterans with a quilt ceremony in Troy on Sunday. Belton school students got to learn about healthcare jobs at Baylor Scott & White. The Wildcat Market in Temple, at Temple High School, started for the season. They had Christmas parades in Belton, Temple, and Salado. Santa Claus visited the Temple Railroad Museum. Some scouts learned how to dispose of used flags. The Temple VFW post, 1820, celebrated 80 years. I live right next door to it. In Temple, they're thinking about improving the Mayburn Civic Center. At Temple College, they had a holiday town event hosted by the STEM Club and Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society. 13 people who have disabilities got to work at Wes's Burger Shack in Temple last Saturday. There was a write-up about it in Wednesday's Temple paper. 450 students graduated from Marion and Baylor in their fall commencement. The Friends of the late Temple philanthropist Allison Dixon are raising money to help finish her last project. King of the Roo, the mascot at Clayton High School, won the Community Impact Award. Both Temple and Belton are hoping to be music-friendly Texas cities. 17 Temple High and 12 Belton High students are going to the National Theater Competition in Grapevine later next year, and early next year, or was later this year. Anyway, Chilton have players on all-district volleyball honors. Lorena running back Draylon Henry, son of Leopards legend John Henry, broke his father's record for rushing touchdowns in a season. The Cowboys beat the Seahawks 41-35 on Thursday Night Football on Prime, while the Texans beat the Broncos 22-17 Sunday. Texas beat Oklahoma State 49-21 to win the Big 12. They moved to number 3 in the rankings and also made the college football playoff. They will play number 2 Washington in the Sugar Bowl New Year's night on ESPN. Before that, number 1 Michigan will play number 4 Alabama in the Rose Bowl. On First Take on ESPN, they were talking about undefeated Florida State being left out. They also talked about on the A3 Weeks podcast with former World Championship Wrestling President Eric Bischoff. SMU beat Tulane 26-14 to win the American Athletic Conference. Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud got AFC Offensive Player and NFL Rookie of the Month honors for November. U of H hired Tulane coach Willie Fritz to be its new coach. And Texans lost wide receiver Tank Dell for the season with an injury. LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr., and Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. are finalists for the Heisman. They'll announce the winner on Saturday. There's another old radio show I listened to a while back. It's a Western. It's called Frontier Gentleman. It was heard on CBS in 1958. It starred John Daner, who played a newspaperman from London named J.B. Kendall, who went around the West and met interesting people like Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane. Some of the actors who were on the show were Harry Bartell, Jack Crucian, Jeanette Nolan, and Vic Perrin. Vic Perrin, by the way, did the voiceover on the opening of the original Outer Limits TV show where he says, "There is nothing wrong with your television set. We will control the vertical. We will control the horizontal," or something like that. John Daner also starred in the radio version of Have Gun Will Travel. Used to have Frontier Gentleman, Have Gun Will Travel, and other Western shows like Hopalong Cassidy, the Cisco Kid, and Tales of the Texas Rangers, and others on a cassette tape. I used to have the song San Antonio Rose on CD. It was a recording that I think was done in the 1970s, one of the last recordings done by Bob Wills when he was still alive. He wrote the song in 1938 and went to number 1 on the Hillbilly charts in 1939. It's also number 49 on the all-time 100 of Western songs. Bing Crosby also recorded it. Well, I turned 30 in 1999. I was still working at HEB back then. Later on in that year, I went to work at a telemarketing firm in Waco. That only lasted for a month. Also went and saw the Astros, Rangers, and Cowboys play. The Astros and Rangers won their divisions. It was also the last time the Astros played in the Astrodome. I believe I went and saw Baylor play when they opened up Baylor Ballpark, which they did that year. Spectrum News went on the air at News 8 Austin. Well, I didn't get it because I had Central Vision back then. 12 students from Texas A&M got killed when the Aggie bonfire collapsed. The Dallas Stars won the Stanley Cup. The San Antonio Spurs won the NBA. The U.S. women's soccer team won the World Cup, their first one, on a penalty kick. No, in a shootout. The Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl over the Falcons in January to win the championship for 1998. The Rams would win the Super Bowl for 1999 in January of 2000 over the Titans, who used to be the Oilers. I got my Texans cap on if you're watching on YouTube, and also my Rockets shirt. UConn won the men's basketball national championship for the first time. Purdue won the women's national championship. and Florida State won the national championship. SpongeBob SquarePants premiered, so did WWE SmackDown and Family Guy. The Matrix and Toy Story 2 were released. Mutual Radio went off the air. Now here's a story from a book about Texas ghosts. In it, a woman who lives in Gilmer believes her house may be haunted by the ghosts of a brother and sister who lived and died in the house. She said a blender came on at 3 o'clock in the morning. Her grandson saw the image of a man standing in a hallway. She saw lights on where she knew nobody was in rooms where nobody was in. She would hear crying in one room, and when she would go in it would stop and it would start again when she would walk out. She and her husband don't live in the house, but in another house. My dad told me one time he was listening to one of the first talk shows on KTRH radio in Houston, and someone called and said that J. Edgar Hoover wasn't real. And the caller said he had read a column by satirist Art Buchwald saying that Hoover was a composite of different people. Those told him that Buchwald was a satirist and that he had met Hoover many times before. When I was in high school, I'd often go and stay with my dad for a week in the summertime, and also during Christmas break. One time there was a column in the old Houston Post telling folks to avoid Westheimer because it's too busy. Just like 31st and Temple. Although Adams is pretty busy too. Now here's a story from my Chicken Soup for the Soul book. It's called The Thought That Counts. And it was submitted by Mr. Mike Moran. In it he talks about how he and his fiancée decided to get their kitchen renovated, and then she also got him some cooking stuff. So he got her some pajamas that looked like scrubs because she's a nurse. When they opened them, she and her daughter told him that he had got her pajamas for nursing mothers. You know, they've been talking about putting a minor league baseball team in Waco for many years. They did have teams before. They were the Waco Cubs, who weren't really connected to the Chicago Cubs. They played from 1925 to 1929, and again in 1933. There was the Waco Navigators from 1906 to 1919. Now they had a team affiliated with the Pittsburgh Pirates called the Waco Pirates, and they played from 1947 to 1956. And there was also the Waco Tigers, who were around in 1892, 1897, 1902, 1903, and 1905, and they weren't connected with the Detroit Tigers. Central Texas once had a TV station that was an affiliate of the old Dumont Network. It was KA&G TV in Waco, Channel 34. It was on from 1953 to 1955, and was owned by the Texas Broadcasting Company, which owned what's now KLBJ Radio and Channel 7 in Austin. KLBJ used to be KTBC, and was owned by a future First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson. It was also an ABC and CBS station, and when it went off the air in 1955 was the same time Channel 10 came on, and they picked up the CBS affiliation. Of course, for a while, Channel 10 had a dual ABC affiliation with CBS. When I first moved there in 81, it was primarily ABC, but switched to CBS in 83. Well, that's it for this week. Now I want to leave you with a word from the good book. It's from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 6. And it says, "Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." Well, thank you for listening or watching. Please leave a like or a rating. Be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you find this on. I'm your host, Chris Carlisle. I also wrote and produced this podcast. I produced it with help from the KineMaster video app. So until next time, have a good day. Or if you're listening at night and about to go to bed, pleasant dreams.